Hey guys, just checking everything's working. All good. Yep, looks like it. Just checking out a few bits. Hope everyone enjoyed the football. Surprised to see a win in normal time. Keeping an eye on the Bitcoin stock to flow. Just sort of comparing this this cycle, sort of from the halving to the previous cycle. A little bit different, but yeah. You look at previous one. Does seem to follow this model quite closely. Wait for a few more people to come in. Wondering if we've now bottomed on the crypto. Seeing a lot of sort of rises over the last few weeks. Gone way above the Bitcoin total at the weekend. Back above the previous weekend as well. So it's quite interesting. Seeing a lot of sort of 7-day returns at, well, some in the 50s, 40s, but yeah, quite a lot, sort of around 30%. Even got where one of my little small cap altcoins, Anchor, in the top 100 now. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, drop a comment if you want to say hi, chat. Hello, Ali. Hope you're well. What's your thoughts on Coupang? Coupang is not one I've heard of. I presume that's a stock. It's a tech stock. It's on the Nasdaq. Oh, 73 billion. It's quite big. I've not heard of it. What do they do? E-commerce business through its mobile applications. Oh, we're primarily in South Korea. Interesting. Home goods and decor products, apparel, beauty, fresh goods. Interesting. We're looking at sort of financials wise. Is this in dollars? Heavy growth. Loss making from the looks of it, even in EBITDA. People would normally sort of look at maybe operating income with this sort of an age of company rather than net income, or even sort of gross profit. But yeah, so I mean, you could always look at price to sales if they are really sort of young and growing that much. So it's about 5, assuming that is in dollars. Yeah, I'm not really one for these sort of super high growth stocks, sort of 73 billion and still unprofitable. I wouldn't be all that keen on. Obviously, they've got to grow a hell of a lot more, I guess, if they want to scale and then turn that into profit. It's just a little bit speculative for me, sort of. If they're, eventually going to be turning profitable and sort of you're wanting it to go up from 73 billion. I guess obviously they're big in Asia, but I'd never even heard of them. Maybe that's partly me. But yeah, I take it it's one of your reasonable positions, or maybe just something you're looking to get into. Looks like they've not got a huge amount of debt. A reasonable amount of cash. Yeah, very little current debt. Negative current ratio, though. Nearly $1 billion more in current liabilities. So that's accounts payable. Not something you'd normally expect to see from a growing company. And then got a little bit of long-term debt, but not too bad. Yeah, so 4 billion in negative equity, really, sort of total assets over total liabilities. Quite bad. Getting slightly worse as well. I don't know whether they've sort of taken on, I'm sure you'd know more than me, whether they've taken on sort of any debt to fund an acquisition or something. We'd have to sort of look into them a bit further, but yeah, not one for me. Hello, Westy. Seeing a fair few sort of stocks still in the value range, even though I'm not buying at the moment. Sort of still piling into the small cap cryptos. Got things like Quonstamp, still sort of, has been bobbling around the low prices, but starting to sort of pick up a little. Yeah, still sort of bobbling around the low points, really. But yeah, it seems to be Anchor that is the one going first at the moment. Just sort of looking at them on the last few months. Obviously been in a downtrend with Bitcoin, but yeah, we had the sort of what potentially could be the bottom last week, and yeah, starting to sort of come back to some sort of reality, which is nice. Didn't quite catch that bottom, as I say, but you never really can. I was tempted to dip into the emergency fund a little bit to go a bit heavier if we stayed around those levels, but haven't done that. And if we're sort of going up from here, I probably will leave it and start putting sort of regular salary amounts into stocks rather than into crypto again. So yeah, we'll see where we go from that. Dale, evening. What do you make of the Binance thing? Heard people can't transfer out or in. Yeah, it seemed to be sort of, they were saying they can't do regulated activity, which I thought was sort of futures and options and that sort of thing. But yeah, then I did see the people saying that they couldn't withdraw. Not the end of the world, I suppose. Worst case scenario, you might have to set up an account with sort of someone like Coinbase, say, and maybe even convert some of your crypto to one that Coinbase holds, whether that be Bitcoin or something, and then sell it on Bitcoin and cash out that way. If they're not able to get sort of fully regulated with the UK banks and sort of the UK financial system. But yeah, it's a bit annoying. I probably wasn't going to be sort of keep my small caps on Binance, but I would imagine I'll have to withdraw, sort of doing that method, sending them to, or converting them to something that Coinbase accepts, sending them to Coinbase and then withdrawing from there. It's a bit of hassle, but the UK doesn't seem to be crypto friendly, or doesn't seem to be wanting to get crypto friendly. We're going the other way. Westy entered the realm of crypto last week, put a couple of hundred into Ether, and up £39 already. Well, yeah, if you put your first amount in last week, then you may have caught the low. Obviously, could end badly. We could still be going lower. We may have topped and be in for a long bear market, as some people are suggesting. But I'm not quite sure I believe that. So, see how things go. You're only dabbling with crypto while you're still waiting to open up your 212 ISA. Yes, we're looking at 6 months nearly that they've been shut to new people. Yeah, it's a bit rough. I'm sure this is partly due to sort of the meme stocks. They got sort of battered a little bit, and yeah, don't think the regulators were very happy. Don't think the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange were very happy either. So could be some fallout because of that. Dale, do you think other crypto platforms will be targeted by the regulators? I don't know. I think Coinbase seem to have sort of, I think they're sort of capitalising on the Binance bad news. They sort of came straight out and said, we're regulated, we've done everything by the book. But they do seem to be sort of doing things the right way. Can't imagine them sort of getting banned. Obviously a publicly listed company now in America at least. So yeah, they might go after them if Britain really wants to sort of keep taking this further. I thought it was interesting, sort of going back to, a few years ago, we had George Osborne saying that England was going to be a crypto hub of the world. We were going to be fully embracing it, and since then, in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, we've turned on our head completely. So, just shows you what different governments can do. But yeah, certainly sort of seeing some reasonable gains in the stocks. Got eBay had a nice sort of pump today. Only a couple of percent, but sort of putting me in a nice position now. I think we're sort of 22% up. So pretty happy with that. The if the iShares Global Water has sort of snuck up on me, I'm up 10, nearly 11% on that now. It's just sort of trickling up. And my lovely Kia Group, it was a penny stock, not really now because they've done a huge share issue, but sort of penny stock, but the second largest builders in Britain. Seemed like a little bit of a risky, but sort of not exactly speculative. I didn't think they were going to go bust. So just seemed like they would come back eventually. A lot of infrastructure projects, huge order book, sort of £8 billion pounds order book. Seemed couldn't go wrong, really. Obviously, it could have gone wrong. Could have been a good thing, but UK let it slip. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's you've got other countries sort of trying to lead on it now. Some of the Asians, Korea, and even Japan are sort of seem to be getting back on it. Canada, sort of jumping on it, approving all the ETFs, and you've got the smaller sort of European countries like Malta and yeah, some of the sort of smaller people in Europe, Portugal, I think, are fairly positive on it. And that could have been us, but I guess we've got London and sort of the city, as they call it, sort of our equivalent of Wall Street, and maybe they don't like it, and the government don't particularly like it because they can't control it. They probably want to issue their own coin at some point. But yeah, so I finally got one of my ISAs into IG. As you say, seemed interesting, sort of finding out what I can and can't buy. They sort of say, they've got 17,000 markets. I guess some of the ones I was looking at, I may have to just buy in a general investment account on here. Probably be the way I'll be looking to go if crypto does sort of go mad over towards the end of the year. I'm not going to keep piling into trading 212. Don't want sort of hundreds and hundreds of thousands in those. I'd rather sort of split it long term, maybe half and half between whether it be IG and trading 212 or maybe another platform. I do sort of say, if everyone sort of lowered their fees to trading 212's level, then yeah, maybe I would go back to someone like Hargreaves Lansdown. But doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. So it's IG and trading 212. Still got the iWeb account waiting to move over to them. That is just Polymetal and nothing else at the moment, and a little bit of cash from the big dividend. Still, unfortunately, about £1,300 in cash at the moment. No word on when it's going into IG yet. They just said awaiting evaluation from iWeb. So very frustrating transfer process in the UK. Looking at sort of getting on for 2 months, over 2 months now, I think. So this is what you get if you want to transfer ISAs. I take it it's a quiet night. Everyone's having a drink after the football. I did have a cheeky little bet on, which didn't pay off. Nearly did. Coral doing some strange specials, which always draw you in, seem too likely, but don't pay off. They were doing Harry Kane to be offside once or more, and to get one shot on target or more, which he got the shot on target, obviously got his goal, but surprisingly wasn't offside once all game. So that one didn't pay off. You win some, you lose some. I don't really put that many bets on recently. I might get back into it, but yeah, sort of since putting most of my money in crypto, I sort of think that's enough gambling for a while. Yeah, may get back into it later on. After hopefully going semi-retired. Still thinking I might do that sort of at the end of the year, pretty much regardless. I think I could probably afford to live on 3 days a week money and maybe do some little side hustles. Been looking into whether I could get into match betting and sort of some other little, temporary side hustles and that sort of thing. So yeah, if anyone's got any suggestions, certainly drop them in the comments. Something I could maybe do, not just for a month or two, but slightly longer term, sort of flexible, and yeah, something you can either do from home or sort of, something you can do relatively easily, sort of low commitment. interesting. Remember, the house always wins. Yes, the house always wins. It's a bit of entertainment as well. I've never really seen betting as sort of, a way to make money. It's just spices up the odd footy game or something, or, quite like going to the horse race, and it's quite interesting, and you just sort of take, say 60 quid with you if there's 6 races, and basically write the whole lot off, before you get there. If you win anything, then it's a bonus. But yeah, it's a bit of entertainment sort of for the day. If you start trying to sort of win your money back or break even or whatever, it's not going to be that fun. But yeah, yes, the house always wins though. I'm wondering about the stock to flow model though. Just sort of looking at how far we have dipped. We obviously went above the line quite early and stayed there for quite a while, which we didn't do back in the 2017 bull run. We sort of pretty much staying underneath it and hugging it sort of all the way up, and then shot through sort of afterwards, which, if it was to do that again, it seems would still be the end of the year, because the halving was in May this year and not in July like last time. But I'm not sure we'll sort of rocket above the line like we did last time. That would sort of push us through like 300, 400,000 maybe. I'm not quite as bullish on others' predictions. I'd sort of be fairly happy with 100,000, to be honest. Assuming some of the altcoins follow, and I expect they would sort of overshoot some of the Bitcoin gain, really. I mean, 100,000's only not even 3 times from here, so yeah, seems fairly doable, I would have thought, but some of the altcoins I'd be expecting a lot more than 3x. So yeah, we'll see. He's taken a very strange path, but if you sort of zoom out, it's around about the line, which, considering the line was drawn years ago, I would still say he's not doing too bad. I mean, yeah, you look at this, it sort of has its ups and downs and drifts away from it, certainly, but yeah, you can't really argue with it all that much, like I say, considering this was drawn years ago. I think it gets slightly updated depending on sort of price action and how much is mined and that sort of thing, when the halving dates move and Bitcoin difficulty moves sort of with the hash rate. So yeah, the line I think does move slightly here and there, but yeah, does seem to be a good indicator, even if people say it's a load of rubbish. Westy, do you believe we never came out of the 08 crash? A lot of people do say that, actually, because we didn't. I mean, obviously the market fell quite hard, but yeah, we sort of printed our way out of it with the quantitative easing and sort of low interest rates, which we never really got sort of back to normal. Yeah, so I think there is an element of sort of kicking the can down the road. Yeah, and that's why I sort of never really had a sort of proper prolonged crash. We never had a huge crash really in the housing market. That was sort of propped up almost. You had a bit of a sort of pump in gold and silver and that sort of thing in the years afterwards, but yeah, it never seemed super harsh. I mean, I weren't investing back then, but you sort of look back on it, it seems to have sort of been bailed out in the 2010, 2011 sort of time frame, and yeah, we've sort of been borrowing money ever since. And now just going mad with it. So that's why I'm sort of still fairly bullish on gold and silver, as well as the crypto. Not really one for the whole sort of pick one or the other. There's people that say sort of crypto is going to be dominant and gold and silver are going to die. I think there's room for both. I think the wider sort of investment world, the institutions are still always going to see it as a safe haven. And don't think it's going to die particularly. It's already still $10 trillion, I think, just in gold from sort of today's current supply. I think still sort of say it's about 185,000 tons. Obviously India, sort of China and people like that hold a lot of it, probably more than we think. But yeah, I do think if we'd have just let 2008 sort of run its course and everything reset, housing market, stocks and everything, probably would have been in a better position now. Obviously some people would be worse off, but yeah, it's better than everyone being worse off for the longer term. Hello, Mr. Patel. Thoughts on cannabis stocks? I'm not really that keen on them, to be honest. It's, like you say, American legalisation, but it seems to be quite sort of localised. I'm never all that keen. I mean, I do hold some things that are focused on the US, but I'm never all that keen on something that is sort of mainly focused on the US. I tend to like sort of global companies. Say I sort of hold some small caps that are pretty much US only, and some of the larger caps which are fairly US dominant, but not really. Sort of obviously you're looking for still a change in America for a lot of them. A lot of states legalizing it. It is partly in America, isn't it? But not everywhere. And I just can't see that it'd have that much sort of total addressable market, they call it. I don't really know that much about the sort of the medical uses, but yeah, I see sort of some of these penny stock sort of tickers go around. Take it that is high tide. Yeah, I mean they're small market caps. Heavily growing, I suppose, but just think it could be, you get a slightly more conservative government, not really that keen on it. Could sort of have the wind knocked out of its sails, and I don't think you've really got all that much support from other countries sort of willing to take up the slack. So yeah, you're kind of betting on this American legalization. I wouldn't be that keen, to be honest. I haven't seen Planet 13 too much. That was one of financial education Jeremy's ones, I think, isn't it? Which I know some people have been burnt on. Again, sort of fairly heavy revenue growth, which is what people would always look for in high growth companies, I guess. But yeah, sort of 77 million on a 1.3 billion market cap. So price to sales of like 17. I'm never really that keen on that sort of thing. Unprofitable, high price to sales. Just you're betting on the future, obviously. A little bit too much, I think. I would rather sort of wait, if it's going to be a big industry, if other countries start legalising it and going for it, then I'll just jump in then and maybe take a smaller return, but with less risk. Yeah, until then, it's not really one for me, I'm afraid. Westy, I think Tesla's future is promising. Can the stock growth to the price of Amazon, for instance? How likely would it be built on hype? Well, I think the current sort of stock price is partly built on hype. I mean, every person you talk to, if you talk about what they're doing today, then they just dismiss it and sort of laugh at you. You know, I mean, they're selling potentially 1 million cars this year. But if you sort of base, you know, you can't base today's market cap off 1 million cars a year. It just doesn't, you know, compute any way you look at it. So, yeah, everybody you talk to, it's immediately, they're not a car company. You know, they're going to be doing solar and battery storage and that sort of thing, which, again, could be, I mean, they're doing it now, but as far as on scale and sort of profitable, could be years away. So you're sort of justifying today's market cap on something that is years away. And, you know, as far as the cars go, they're sort of, you know, they're selling 1 million cars. I mean, Renault sell 3.5 million cars, and they're 10 billion market cap, I think, maybe 12 billion, $13 billion. And Tesla are 680, if I remember. I guess the market sort of view is that Renault's 3.5 million cars a year are not going to last because they're combustion engine vehicles, but they're actually sort of selling quite a lot of electric vehicles already. I think mainly with their little Zoe one, but they're obviously coming out with more. But yeah, for sort of, what is it, a 50th nearly of the market cap, yeah, they sell 3.5 times the cars overall, and sort of probably half the EVs. So yeah, not really that keen when you have to start, you know, bringing in solar and battery storage and all that sort of thing just to justify today's market cap. And then at the same time, you're saying it's going to go to 3 trillion, 4 trillion, 6 trillion in, you know, 3 or 4 years. Is that, you know, going to be then pricing in what they're going to be doing in another 5 years in 2030, and people will still be saying, you know, it's about the future. So yeah, be interesting to hold. You know, if there is a downturn and a sort of significant crash, then I may jump back in. I did hold one share, sort of bought back at $380, I think, and sold at $750, I think. Obviously went to sort of high 800s, so I missed out on a bit of that, but they've still not gone past $750. So if I'd have held it, I would have still been down compared to selling it at $750. But even the analysts, Yahoo analysts, aren't really sort of up in their earnings estimates recently in the last sort of month or two. It's gone up in the last, well, between 60 days and 30 days. Obviously next year is still a lot, but yeah, so you're looking at next year is a sort of forward PE. This isn't even forward PE. Forward PE would be the next 12 months, whereas this is all of 2022. So sort of a year and a half forward PE of 100, which, you know, they're getting a mature company now, obviously $650 billion, and they're, 20 years old? I think they sort of started in like the early 2000s. So yeah, 20-year-old company to still be at forward PE of 100. Not really one for me. trailing P of 683. That's just quite funny. Yeah, and still price to sales of 20. I mean, we've sort of been looking at, $1-2 billion companies which are at price to sales of sort of high teens, 20. And you got $650 billion company still at that. If you take, Microsoft are growing at a hell of a rate. I'm not going to try and throw some sort of value stock with price to sales incredibly low, but yeah, Microsoft growing at a hell of a pace, and they're at 12. So, and forward PE of 32. So, if Tesla come down, anywhere near that, even if they come down to 50, obviously you've got earnings have either got to increase a hell of a lot, or stock price has got to come down. So, interesting one, but not really for me. Volkswagen Group said they plan to overtake Tesla. On paper, with the car brands they own, you think it makes sense? I do. Obviously, I hold Volkswagen and Porsche, which is basically Volkswagen. I'm not sure about overtaking Tesla. They're obviously the biggest car company in the world, I think. Or sort of, they trade blows with Toyota pretty much. I think Toyota are quite often the largest, but they both sort of produce 10 million cars a year. But Volkswagen are sort of catching up Tesla on electric vehicles now. I think they're sort of quite often either number 2 or number 3 on electric vehicle deliveries. They're already in China, or certainly on the sort of combustion engine vehicles, they're already in China. They sell sort of 1.5 million, 2 million cars in China every year. So I don't think the argument's there that NIO and Tesla are going to dominate China. I can see them eventually sort of switching to Volkswagen's electric vehicles. So yeah, I think Volkswagen just seems a much better sort of value play. You look at some of their sort of metrics. Obviously, they've got massive enterprise value because they are, what people don't know, the highest debt company, the highest indebted company in the world. Which is interesting, but still sort of enterprise value to EBITDA, quite a sort of popular metric people look at, under 10. Obviously, we're just looking at Tesla with their sort of price to sales of 18. Volkswagen, obviously, a lot more mature company, but they're at 0.56. Yahoo don't give sort of forward earnings projections for like UK and European companies, so the forward PE is always not applicable. You don't take that as a loss. But yeah, so there's still sort of, free cash flow of, what we got, 14 billion on trailing 12 months at 128 billion market cap. So price to free cash flow of less than 10 as well gives them the money to be, either spending on dividends or putting even more than they were intending into expanding their electric vehicle production and battery production, that sort of thing, or sort of investing in other companies for battery production. So I just think it's, as you say, with the brands, all the different brands they own, I think pooled knowledge should sort of win out over time. It just seems a better value play. I would think less downside if we do have a downturn. Can't really get all that much lower than single figures on PE when, if you're at 100 and we get a downturn, then there's a long way to fall if sentiment sort of shifts. Thoughts on the global semiconductor shortages? Good time to buy. presume on the Trading 212 Invest account. Yes, I'm not buying sort of just yet. If we, as I say, sort of need a bit of a pump in crypto if I were to be investing sort of any serious money. But if the crypto's on the way back up, I'll be putting maybe sort of £1,000 a month probably into the invest account. But not sure I would be going for any sort of semiconductor stocks at the moment. I've got Broadcom. They sort of seem at a reasonable level, but there's sort of others that I would rather be putting into. Got Intel. Seem a sort of fairish price. Still a bit of a worry about whether they're going to get, beaten down now with AMD still looking strong, and the sort of ARM chips that Apple are doing and other companies are doing. Nvidia have bought ARM or in the process, so there's a lot of risk with Intel, I think. Taiwan Semiconductor, they haven't sort of dipped too much, still sort of a bit premium valuation. I've already got $4,000 in them, so I don't think I'll be adding anything to semiconductors at the moment. But if you didn't hold any, maybe a good time to buy, or sort of top up if you're wanting to add a little. I wouldn't say they're bad value, just there's sort of other stuff in my portfolio I'd probably be adding to first if we suddenly get some cash, or just with the next monthly deposits. But it would be on the Trading 212 Invest account most likely. Don't think I'm going to start IG just yet. Westy, I think you'll ever take your money out of stocks and into real estate? A lot of people do plead with me to sort of buy a buy-to-let. Obviously, it doesn't take all that much if you're just putting down a deposit. I'm in a sort of relatively cheap area, so I probably could get a buy-to-let with maybe 20,000 deposit and sort of mortgage the rest. So I could sell sort of, a bit of the ETFs and maybe 2 or 3 stocks and sort of have a buy-to-let. I'd have the deposit enough for that. But I've sort of compared total returns really, including maintenance and insurance and taxes now. There's not the tax benefits that you used to get on buy-to-let. And sort of comparing it over the long term, doesn't really seem to beat stocks, to be honest. I've done a video sort of a long while ago now on sort of buy-to-let versus REITs, and I still think that sort of holds up. If you buy the right house, or you want to do it up, you can add value to it and that sort of thing. Or if you buy in a good area, then you can get more capital appreciation than the market might do. You normally get sort of longer term about 4% rise in the house price a year. Sort of maximum 4% really. I think the longer term average is sort of 3%, and we're obviously at a sort of fairly high point at the moment, so could see a bit of a drop. But and you got the hassle of sort of dealing with it. You can pay a management company to deal with it for you. Sort of lose 5% of your income, maybe 10% of your income, but you don't have the sort of hassle of dealing with it so much. But it's still some hassle. You still have to insure it, and it's bits and bobs. You still have to do your taxes on it, and some bits and pieces on it. It just doesn't seem to be worth the return, to be honest. Like I say, the video, I sort of took it over a 25 year. If you were to mortgage it, work out what you're going to get in rent most likely over the 25 years. The mortgage would then be paid off. Say you were to sell the house at the end of it, and sort of divide all of that total and compare to how much you put into it at the start and sort of apply a compound rate of return, just seems to be on par with stocks, or at least certainly on par, maybe a little bit under par to some REITs. And the REITs and stocks you can buy and sit on your backside and play on the Xbox if you want, or you could sort of take up a side hustle of some sort in the time that you would be managing the buy-to-let and earn a little bit more money. So, yeah, not really all that keen on real estate, to be honest, physical real estate. Obviously I own my own house, but yeah, I don't really count that as part of my sort of net worth, because you live in it, you got to live somewhere, and I don't really want to rent. But yeah, so probably not getting into buy-to-let anytime soon, even if I am probably wasting the fact that I live in a fairly cheap area. Like I say, could probably get a buy-to-let with 20,000 deposit maybe. Do you think Alibaba will recover to all-time highs given interference from the Chinese government? I think they will. I think China wants to sort of be a global dominant force. I think their ultimate goal would be to sort of overtake US as the largest economy in the world, and sort of extra long term. They always do extra long term thinking in China. They'd like the yuan to be the sort of global currency. They're obviously moving to their digital currency now, so that sort of make it more tradable with the rest of the world potentially. So yeah, I wouldn't have thought it's going to be that easy to get there without the sort of big tech names that they've got, sort of Tencents and Alibabas and Baidu and people like that. So I would think they haven't really got much choice but to get behind them longer term. I mean, they've obviously done their little crackdowns on Alibaba and sort of knocked their IPO of Ant Group and sort of knocking them for competition and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think it's small potatoes really compared to how much money they all make. So I do hold all three, Alibaba, Baidu or Tencent through my process investment. I don't have Tencent directly. And then the emerging markets ETF, which contains sort of a lot of those anyway. So yeah, I would think in time Alibaba should be able to get to all-time highs and probably well beyond. Just might not be as quick as sort of the US FANG stocks, but yeah, I think they should get there. A little bit better sort of margin of safety as well. Sort of earnings multiples aren't crazy. Oh, Inkmatic. You think there'll be sanctions on China? I can't see. I mean, I just don't think there's the conflict between sort of America and China now that there was. I know there's talks of it, but I think Biden is sort of more relaxed president. Just can't see them sort of stoking up too much hassle with them. So I think it's a little bit overblown, to be honest. Westy, your boss told me this morning getting into stocks is too risky, and what if you lose it all? Failed to tell him about the risks he took by starting his own company and buying a third house to rent out. Yeah, obviously that's putting all your eggs in one basket with real estate. Yeah, if he's got two houses already, then yeah, that's certainly risky. And I mean, if you're investing in sort of reasonable stocks, are you really going to lose it all? You know, you can have a drop. You might drop 30, 40%. The housing market might drop 30 or 40%. It did in 2008. And if you're in sort of more defensive stocks, then yeah, you can sort of outperform house prices in the good times and maybe not have quite so much downside in the down times, especially if you're diversified. Hello, Happy Dapper. Just got on in this. How's it going? Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Any questions? Drop them in the comments by all means. Bit of a quiet one tonight, I think. A lot of people probably watch the footy and maybe a drink afterwards. Kind of forgot it was football night. Do you have any thoughts on a nice dividend payout on M&G? Seem to be growing quite well. Yeah, I've seen them before. They sort of almost like a little ETF. I've seen them before. I don't know whether you can get their sort of top holdings on Hargreaves Lansdowne, or whether it'll just M&G. I know it's like 10% yield or something, isn't it? Or 8% yield. I guess it's gone up a little. Yeah, it's been doing quite well. £1.60 sort of last year, up to £2.28. Yeah, they don't give their top holdings here, but I've seen them before. They do sort of invest in a lot of high dividend paying sort of value stocks and that sort of thing. But yeah, sort of a little bit hesitant. I take it they take a fee for their investments, and sort of if you're paying for someone to invest in, National Grid and that sort of thing, it sort of seems a little bit counterintuitive, really. I mean, you sort of look at, so they go back to 2018, so you're basically flat, if a little bit down, probably since the end of 2018, which is not great. I mean, it's sort of been a roaring bull market, really. Does it show a bit more on Google Finance? No, I guess they did start in sort of late 2018, presume, late 2019. Yeah, it's sort of high dividend, but basically no capital appreciation at all. Sort of you've only had capital appreciation because of the COVID dip. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, I would be looking for sort of 7 or 8% return long term. So if this gives you that just on the dividend, then fair enough, I guess. But I think I would rather sort of have growing companies with a smaller dividend. I've kind of shied away from focusing too much on just the pure yield at the moment. I mean, I've got Legal and General and that sort of thing, which are high yield, but I don't have too many of them. I've got quite a few that are paying sort of 1%, but happier on the company, so quite happy to go with that smaller yield and just look at total return. So if I have to, in semi-retirement, I'll be obviously having to sell small bits of the stock to sort of fund retirement rather than just living on dividends. Quite happy with that. Any thoughts on global clean energy? I think the future will be carbon neutral companies. No, I think, yeah, it's the way we've got to go. I think we're already seeing sort of hints of global warming all around the world, sort of more natural disasters in a year, more sort of, even in the UK, sort of the heat wave seems to be coming every year, and it's getting hotter and hotter every year. You're getting you know, all-time record temperatures in the summer, sort of every summer pretty much. So yeah, I think we've obviously got to do something. So obviously electric vehicles and sort of clean energy, a lot of solar power and wind power and that sort of thing. Surprised we don't get more into sort of the hydro wave power side of things, being an island, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be pushing on all that much. Seem to be more focused on wind. But yes, I shall keep piling into the Global Clean Energy ETF as long as it sort of stays within somewhat a reasonable portion of the portfolio. Go Westy. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for coming. Had a good chat on a few bits. See you later on. Yeah, I do like the. I know the iShares Global Clean Energy has sort of changed quite a lot in the last few months. They used to hold sort of 30 stocks or something, with the biggest sort of being Plug Power, I think it was. Now they've sort of dropped down quite a bit, and they've diversified a hell of a lot more. Sort of hold about 80 stocks now. So yeah, a bit of a shake up in that, but yeah, I shall carry on buying. Happy Dapper. Tempted to dip your toe into Argo blockchain to get some more exposure to crypto. Am I keen on it long term? I'm not all that keen on anything crypto past sort of middle of next year. I would have thought, depending on when the top is really in Bitcoin. I know Argo have they've got their other things that they're getting into. They've got the big Texas mine that they're looking to build. Call it a mine, it's just a factory of graphics cards basically. But yeah, long term I'm not too sure about. Obviously if there was a crash, then you could be buying into them, you know, a Bitcoin say rise up to sort of 100,000 or more, and then, you know, a big crash after that, then you could get bullish about them sort of 2022 onwards towards sort of the next halving in 2024, and sort of see it as a bit longer term then. Yeah, maybe sort of if there's a bear market in crypto in sort of 2022, then I may re-add Argo blockchain as one of my sort of longer term stocks. But yeah, I think if we get a sort of crypto rise up to, you know, 100k or more, then I would expect Argo to sort of go bananas, and I'd probably be taking most, if not all of the profit out of that then, and sort of reallocating to other things. Obviously, we've seen if you have a fair crypto dip, then things like Argo drop even more. Sort of dropped over 60%. I think it was sort of nearly 65% drop from the top, where Bitcoin only had maybe about 53%, I think, maximum. So yeah, that'd be my sort of view on Argo. Hold till whenever the rough top is, sort of between 100k Bitcoin and I think 150k would be sort of my complete sell out everything point. I'd be selling out of Argo blockchain. I'd be selling out of the Bitcoin ETP that I've got in the ISA, and probably everything. Inkmatic, are you buying any crypto at the moment? I have stopped for the minute. I have been buying quite heavily the last sort of 4 weeks or so into 5 little small caps. If you have a check on last sort of 2 or 3 crypto portfolio videos, you probably see that's Anchor, New Cipher, Band Protocol, Quantstamp, and Cocos. So I've sort of picked them as my 5, made my bed with them, and sort of just keep piling into them at the moment. But kind of wondering if we bottomed now. So yeah, unless we have another big drop, then probably won't be adding anything more to them. But yeah, I did just I put another £1,000 into each of those last Monday. Saying you can get a crypto card. Yeah, the sort of Visa cards, not really all that sure about. I mean, it's still a commodity sort of subject to capital gains tax. So, you know, unless they change that, then if you sort of buy something for a tenner, you know, on your card, then if you're over the capital gains tax limit, then you've got to work out how much money you've made on that £10 worth of Bitcoin and sort of keep track of it all. So yeah, not all that keen on them. As long as I'm with sort of over the capital gains tax limit, it kind of makes it quite awkward. Never really saw it as a cash, basically, that you would spend on a debit card. I'm more in the camp of Bitcoin is digital gold that you sort of keep for reasonably long periods and then sell off portions of it rather than sort of spending a tenner's worth on a Visa card or something. I suppose you could, make only large purchases on it, only sort of, I don't know, £500 or more, and then might be easier to work out the tax on it, but it just seems like too much hassle, to be honest. If you don't deal in anything, if you've only got a stocks and shares ISA, say, and you don't use your capital gains tax allowance at all, then you haven't really got to worry about it. But, yeah, not for me. Seems like so much is trying to push crypto down at the moment. Yeah, I mean, worried there might be some regulation with it all now. Yeah, the UK is still sort of not all that happy with it, but it's worth remembering. Sort of look back at the previous sort of 2017 bull run. Just zoom in. You had a lot of pullbacks back in the sort of 2017 run. These sort of, obviously because it's on log scale, these don't look a huge amount, but yeah, sort of you had like £1,000 there down to sort of £800, I think, or £780. So yeah, you were sort of 20 or 30% there. You go sort of 1,280 down to 900 odd again. I think there's 5. I showed a chart before. I think there was 5 drops over 30%, sort of in basically 6 months. And all of these came with their own bad stories. You had towards the end of the year, you had the Bitcoin Cash. Potentially Bitcoin completely splitting in two. People were sort of wondering if it was the end. Bitcoin Cash was going to take over the whole crypto market, or they could all die just because of fractious, everyone splitting up, and it would all go to pot. And sort of, I can't even remember the ones earlier in the year. You'd have to sort of look up what the news stories were back then. But yeah, every drop had its load of either one big story or a few sort of big stories all happening at the same time that sort of caused it to drop. And sort of every time everyone said, "Is this the end?" Around about these ones, like was 3,000. I expect it got to 3,000 during the day. Was 3,000 the top, and now it's the end of Bitcoin. Obviously, it wasn't. So yeah, this isn't the first drop to come with sort of a load of bearish news stories. I tend to just zoom out and look at the big picture, really. Were you happy with Nintendo's gaming unravel? I haven't. I need to probably look into. I haven't watched the Nintendo Direct actually. I know they sort of released a few games, but I need to look into it a little bit more in depth. I'm kind of happy with Nintendo long term. I think they've got an excellent brand. Seems to be an excellent console at the moment. I would like them to sort of get going with the higher spec one. I think sort of against the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, they sort of need something a little bit more powerful. Although the sort of rumours were that the sort of potential Switch Pro would be about as powerful as a base PS4, which I appreciate. It's a small handheld, but yeah, not sure if that would get people all that excited. But yeah, fairly happy with them. I think it's a value stock in the video gaming world. They're sort of a lot cheaper valuations than your Activisions and your Take-Twos and all that sort of thing. Yeah, a lot of cash. A lot of people don't seem to sort of price in some of the other stuff they got going, the sort of Super Nintendo World theme parks that they're opening. Yeah, I like them fairly long term. Hello, Jonathan. What platforms do I use? So at the moment, I use Trading 212 for sort of main stock portfolio, the ISA and the sort of general investment account on there. My other ISA, I've got a IG stocks and shares ISA, which I'm sort of moving over to. Still got one sort of with iWeb, which is in transfer at the moment to IG. So yeah, longer term, the plan is to be on IG and Trading 212, sort of half and half. And then for crypto, I use generally Coinbase Pro and Binance. Obviously had a bit of bad news with the Binance bans potentially. I haven't tried to put any money into Binance, see how it was going. Does seem to be a bit of sort of untruth in some of the articles. I've seen a few articles saying Barclays have banned all transactions regarding crypto, and I've sort of deposited on platforms since then quite a bit and withdrawn a lot from Coinbase Pro and had no issues whatsoever. So yeah, I think some of the articles sort of obviously you get a lot of hits and a lot of clicks online for negative news about Bitcoin or sort of incredibly bullish news about Bitcoin. But if you sort of put a realistic, truthful headline, then it wouldn't be very sensationalist. So yeah, they don't tend to publish the sort of the truth on those articles. So yeah, I use Coinbase Pro and Binance mainly, and then sort of move it off exchange. Why IG? I moved to IG sort of because they seem to be probably the best of the non sort of commission-free brokers. You sort of got Hargreaves Lansdown and AJ Bell and people like that, and iWeb and IG seem to have sort of the cheapest fees amongst all of those. I always wanted to, so I would say quite happy with Trading 212. And yeah, IG just sort of seemed to be a fairly professional firm. They've been around sort of 40 odd years. Yeah, and sort of I think it's if you make a number of trades they sort of work on the fees lower if you make a number of trades per month. So I think if you do 3, I take it it's buys or sells, then every month after that you do that, then the US trades are commission free and UK trades are £3, and then obviously you pay your stamp duty on top of that. And American and sort of foreign stocks would have a 0.5% FX fee, which is relatively competitive. It's more than trading 2-on-2, but everyone is free trade at 0.45%, so 0.5% is pretty much on the money. Hargreaves Lansdown are 1%, and iWeb, who I'm now leaving and didn't realise this was the case, are 1.5%, so it's pretty much the highest I've seen. iWeb sort of looked good on the face of it, and yeah, you sort of, there's no platform fee and it's £5 a trade regardless, so sounds good, but then you see that FX fee and you're getting hammered. If a stock goes up 50% and you buy and then it goes up another 50%, have you made less than 50%? No, not really. If it goes up, if it goes up 50% from your buy price. Obviously, if a stock's $100, say, and it goes up 50% to 150, and you buy in at 150, and then it goes up to 200, then you haven't made 50%. It would need to go up 50% of $150, say, so that'd be $225. Yeah, so if you buy at 150 and it goes to 225, then you've made 50%. But yeah, if it goes up just another 50% of the original price you were looking at, then no, you would have made 33%, which is a third of your buy price at $150, say. If that makes sense. Anything about Oanda? I've seen them, a lot of people sort of refer to their data on TradingView. I haven't really looked at them as a platform. I thought it was more of a sort of an FX trader type platform, which I'm not really keen on. But yeah, could look into them if they do actually do stocks and shares, but I've not really seen them around when I've been looking at brokers. Patel, you're heavily invested into banks, Bank of Montreal and Nova Scotia. I've got Bank of Nova Scotia. Don't want to sort of go super heavy on financials. Don't actually hold any of the American banks. But yeah, I have got Bank of Nova Scotia. Seem to be one of the better sort of Canadian banks. I think they're all quite similar, really. The sort of, I think it's Toronto Dominion and sort of Bank of Montreal, Bank of Nova Scotia. But yeah, I quite like Nova Scotia out of the sort of main four of them, I think there are. Seem a sort of fairly steady 5-6% dividend plus small amount of growth. Should get me the sort of 7% or so I'm after. Hello, Sadiq. I was actually going to probably say I'd draw it to a close shortly. If there are any last few questions, happy to answer. Getting a bit of a sore throat. So drop any last questions in the chat. Thoughts on that? Yeah, a few people have been asking, Sadiq. Thoughts on the Binance ban in the UK? Yeah, I think the Binance ban seems to be a bit overblown. I think they maybe have to just do a little bit of work with the FCA, maybe. I haven't actually tried to deposit and see whether I could deposit. Like I say, I've been told, Barclays are banning all transactions, and then you try to make a deposit and there's no problem at all. I've seen some screenshots of people saying that they can't withdraw, but I actually can't withdraw. I couldn't withdraw at any time on Binance. I can deposit, but can't withdraw. So yeah, I always recommend sort of having a couple of exchange accounts, set up a Coinbase account, and yeah, you can use Pro and sort of withdraw on there if it's a bit of a struggle. Price prediction, not really sure about the next 3 months. I would think by the end of the year we should be looking positive. Sort of conservatively saying 100k in dollars by the end of the year. Maybe sort of first quarter 2022. If we go above that, then all good. Mr. Patel, thanks for the live chat. Yes, yeah, have a great weekend and week. See you soon. I'll give it another minute, just see if there's any last questions. Keep watching my little small caps. This is kind of what I did in sort of 2016, 2017 time, just sort of buying a few small caps, picking, 4 or 5 and letting them run. And then sort of in the 2019, 2020 sort of bear market, I did the same again, sort of 4 or 5 relatively small caps. Maybe not, in the sort of top 100. I didn't really go for anything outside where I have this time, but yeah, that's all paid off. Not sure whether to sell your positions on Binance and transfer to your Coinbase account. Well, you don't have to sell your position. You can just send the coins, I would have thought, to Coinbase. Assuming Coinbase support the coins. If you're in sort of very small caps, then they might not do. How would your next of kin get your shares from Trading 212 if you don't have a certificate? I mean, you don't really have a certificate with any of these brokers, I don't think. You can request physical certificates from Trading 212, I think, if you really want to, but I think that would be the same with, even with sort of Hargreaves Lansdowne. Yeah, don't think that would be too much of a problem. They would just, if you were to die, then they would liquidate your account and that would go straight to your next of kin. Hello, Mr. P. All well, yeah. Does Kia Group pay a dividend? They don't. They can't really afford a dividend at the moment. But yeah, it's more of just a sort of recovery, trying to get back on their feet, really. I mean, they're sort of, they're now with the share issue. They've sort of obviously issued a ton of shares and paid off all of their debt, so it's sort of still a fairly neutral position, but sort of £500 million company, and they do like 4 billion in revenue, so it's still sort of trying to get themselves back on their feet. I wouldn't be expecting a dividend. I wouldn't really want them to pay a dividend anytime soon, really. I was sort of kind of happy with all their money being spent on debt, removal and sort of getting themselves back on track. So yeah, maybe in a year or two, if they get themselves back on their feet properly, then could look at paying a dividend again, but I'm quite happy with them not doing so. Yeah, someone will need your password for access to your Trading 212 account. Yeah, I'm sort of not really sure what would happen in that situation. I mean, as I say, if you were with Hargreaves Lansdowne and you don't give your family all of your logins to everything you own, I assume they would probably just have to get in touch with the companies and tell them you're dead, presumably. A little bit morbid to think about, but yeah, I haven't looked into it sort of too much. I guess I have to do a will at some point for the portfolio, but as I gather, it just automatically goes to next of kin. Really do want to get on to get the final ISA over to IG and get that cash in. It's a bit annoying having £1,300 sitting in iWeb still in cash, but there you go. I knew that when I was using Polymetal as the one to keep, to transfer over. I didn't want to buy a US stock and have 1.5% FX fee. I think I mentioned before that would have meant probably about £500 in fees, which is quite annoying. Right, I shall probably leave it there, guys. That's if your family knows you have shares. Yes, I have told them. I don't think they know who I'm with, but they probably find all that in my files. But yeah, they certainly know that I'm into it all. They don't really know how much. Rather not tell them. It probably would just scare them. They don't even know about the YouTube account. But yeah. Alright, I shall head off and see you guys soon. See you on the normal 2 videos on Saturday and Sunday. Oh, last question, Sadiq. Is there a prediction for Bitcoin bottom? In the next bear market, I suppose, I don't think it would go, it never really goes as low as the sort of previous peak. So I sort of agree with a lot of people on the sort of 30k range, maybe 35k. Yeah, maybe sort of round about there. If we get to over 100k, you know, maybe 150k, down to 30, it's sort of still a big drop. If you get to just 100k, drop down to 30 is sort of less of a drop, which would probably be seen as Bitcoin sort of maturing. So yeah, I don't think we'd go as low as 15, to be honest. I don't think we're going to get a 15 in this sort of downturn. That seems a little bit negative. Sort of thinking we may have already bottomed and are up on the push to the end of the year now. But yeah. All right, I'm really going to go now. I'll see you guys later. Thank you all for coming. It's been fun. I'll see you guys soon.